Hello and welcome back to Boring Dad Gaming, where today we're going to be playing some more Roottreemania. Now, this may be the final video of this series, I'm not too sure. We're doing pretty well. We've locked in most things. What we're missing is 5. So we're missing Guy's possible third infidelity and illegitimate child. And the last one, just before he died, which we think is this Susan person. She was called Susie in one of my background materials. I can't remember which one. I think it was Cicely's book, or at least her interview about her book. So she called her Susie, but actually there wasn't a Susie in like the name database, so I'm assuming that it's the only other one that it could be, which is Susan. Now I think we've got a couple of routes to have a look at here. The first one... We're going to proceed as if this is in the right place. I'm not entirely sure, but it ties in with him going to China. The official story is that this Xinyu Lang had IVF to help her dad try and get a male heir to take over the company after him, which didn't happen, but she did have a child. But I think, given her placement in this list now, or at least her supposed placement, it might be worth a bit more of an investigation of that. So let's start by, if we remind ourselves of what it said, like in that stuff. Yeah, so I think this stuff with the hands and all that, I'm not sure that's going to be relevant here. It might be, I could be wrong. But let's have a look at this article again. She was born in 47, so if we're thinking that this was probably late 70s, maybe 78, 79, that she'd have been 30-ish. A couple of years either way on that, probably. So yeah, seems like a good age. Her mother was already in her 30s when she had her and had trouble conceiving a second time until 3 years later. This was her sister, which is Xinyao, I think. And she's the one who came to America. It became clear that her father was not going to have a son to pass the family down to, and this is how Xinyu became involved. Her father stayed the president a very long time, training his daughters up. When he died, the business passed to her uncle, who was, I think, a bit of a doofus, so she was kind of being an unofficial CEO. Okay, so nothing here about... kind of the... You know what I mean. I can't even get the words out. The IVF stuff. There's no mention of it there. But maybe in this one, Lang Tai? I'm going to go down my history, because it's definitely in a page that I found. Not this one. Maybe in the Business Watch. Here we go. So apparently at the time, the CEO of Lang Tai was Lang Hongbo, and his younger daughter, Lang Xinyao, and her husband could not have children. So in an attempt to create a suitable heir, he paid Kijins to have their child implanted. Is that a chi sound? I can't. I'm not great with Chinese pronunciations, I'm afraid. In his older daughter, which was Xinyu, who was unmarried. The cost of this was apparently, yeah. So I kind of went down the tree of looking into Xinyao and her husband in America. I'm not sure that's the relevant part here. What I didn't do was look into this company. I wonder if they appear in the spider search. Kijins, there we go, it's pronounced Kijins. It was a medical company with operations in both the US and China. They made international news in '94 after a whistleblower came forward. Ooh, apparently their services were in some cases falsified. Here we go. While they did often perform IVF, the whistleblower proved that a few of their customers paid for a very different service, an alibi. The company would claim that they performed IVF on someone who was already pregnant to create a cover story for high-profile families who did not want to give up the child, but did not want the shame of an unmarried mother. The whistleblower claimed that they had helped to do this at least 6 times, but only provided proof of one case, the daughter of an American politician unrelated to our investigation. I mean, I think that's a pretty clear sign that this is the case here. How we link this to... Well, I mean, we could just search the periodicals, perhaps. Long article that spells out a huge controversy. It seems that oh yeah, we saw about the whistleblower. Sometimes do what they didn't not do what they claimed to have done. Excuses. They'd fly their clients to America, where they would stay for an extended period of time, then return to China with news of a successful IVF pregnancy. Now, it was in one of the entries about her sister and husband. I think she mentioned that her older sister had gone to America, but gone back to China, and didn't speak English, and had no. I think it was phrased like has no intention of ever returning to America. So that ties in there. I'm pretty sure on that. The whistleblower apparently presented the Department of Health and Human Services with credible evidence. At the time of the article, it was still an ongoing investigation, but Business Watch speculated that they couldn't imagine a world in which the company would be allowed to continue operations without facing serious legal or financial consequences. So I am fairly confident in that this is kind of what we're thinking it is. I wonder if this appears anywhere else. Probably not in Music Monthly. Company was in the news. Whistleblower we've seen. Did have a few articles. Hypothetical timeline. Again, usually it was the opposite of their home country, implying that someone from China would go to America and vice versa. They would then give birth and be photographed with their newborns. Now, this is where this is interesting. During their recovery, they would then during their recovery, they would then stay on the premises for a few weeks to a month. This was the equivalent to an extremely high-class spa. After these few weeks, the photos would be released and the birth would be announced as if it had just happened. This extra time out of the spotlight would allow the birth to appear to be over 9 months after the announcement that the celebrity was going to use the service. Okay, so this implies there are photos somewhere. I guess we probably want to find the American version of this. Let me just continue looking at a couple more things here, just in case anything relevant pops up. But I wonder if in America it was actually called Key Jeans. I might search for that in the periodicals. Maybe one of the local newspapers that we have. Okay, another idea is the original name. Maybe US? USA? America? I didn't see that before. Key Jeans is shut down. So we want to get to the photos. Built medical facilities in the United States. Key Jeans Company, maybe. mean, one thing I'm thinking of is we do know the guy who was the baby photographer. It'd be a bit of a coincidence if he was used for this as well, but we need to know where they're based. What? Hang on. So, it isn't marked on this tree, but she had the kid. But the story was she'd done it on behalf of her sister, right? So what if once the baby was born, it was handed over to the sister and her husband, in which case there was a point to all of that stuff. So it was hanging with the hands? First mentioned in 81. Mark Han. I think Mark Han could be the child. She doesn't even like visiting the US anymore, so that's what implies that she was there. So this Robert Redford thing, Butch Cassidy. I mean, there's two things here. The first thing I can think of is that Guy, for all his faults, looks a bit like Robert Redford with the red hair and stuff. Certainly as Robert Redford was in the 70s anyway. And also, Mark's birth name may have been Robert. I don't know, but I'm going to work on the basis that I think this is Mark Han. Now, I still don't... so it sounds like he's in business school, so I'm going to put college student for him. And he's working with his mum. I don't know whether he knows it's his mum or not. Presumably not, but it could be worth searching for him now. I'm not sure if I did before, so let's just look it up. Mark Han. Okay. I mean, if it was announced, it could be Mark Lang as well. Probably not in Modern Music Monthly, huh? Alright, let's have a little look for Mark Lang. What about Robert Lang? Possibly Butch Lang as well. Let's go with Robert Lang to begin with. And I'll put Butch in too. It could just be a clue that she liked people who had a bit of a look of Robert Redford, in which case I think that's further evidence that she was probably interested in Guy at the time she was in America. That's probably a bit of a reach, but it didn't result in anything. I mean, even if we could get a photo of this couple, I mean, we still haven't got anything like that, have we? So... Did we look up Lucy Lang? Okay, I mean, this could be a way to it. Few possibles. On the robotics website as part of Team Talonclaw. They're based in the UK, so probably not that. Part of an a cappella group in LA, or works in New York for a business called Corporate Synergetic Solutions Unlimited. I mean, that could be it. I mean, shit. Well, I can't remember what the previous entry said. They couldn't be more different. So maybe she's in the a cappella group. Let's look for the gin and tonics. Lucy Lang is a soprano. Doesn't seem to be as much else about them other than her name. She performs soloist in a song called Light the Wind. The group were featured in a CD compilation called Boca, performing a cover of a popular boy band song. Doesn't seem relevant to your search. Well, what about Light the Wind? An obscure Irish band called U2. Seeing as U2 is relatively unknown to anyone outside of Dublin, the connection seems to be not a coincidence. Well, it may be not this Lucy Lang. But we could look at that. So I don't know if some of these are like Easter eggs for, you know, by the developer. Some of them might be. I'm just going to look this up in the music magazine, and maybe the local newspapers as well. I think it said they were in LA though, so it seems unlikely they'd be in any of these. So it's possibly not them. Now, she's probably going to appear in Business Watch magazine. Let's look her up. She grew up in a small Arkansas town, the oldest of 4 children, only the second person in her family to have even left the state. Doesn't sound like her, does it? I'm pretty sure that's not her now. Okay, well, let's look up this one. Private college, midway between Maine and Miami. Spectres. I'm not going to read all this because I'm really just looking for stuff to jump out that might lead to another search. Ah, the newspaper is Herald, so maybe I could look that up. Maybe she's appeared in that. There we go. So we've got a periodical added. I actually got an achievement for discovered every periodical, so I've got no excuse for not finding some of this stuff now. Okay, so let's go to Herald and look up Lucy Lang. Team Talon-Claw lists 3 student members and talks a bit about each of their history, including their interest in robotics. Anyone that catches your attention is Lucy Lang. She grew up in China as Min Lang. Ooh. But came to the US specifically to attend university. She says she grew up around factory-scale machines that assembled products shipped all over the world. Moving parts and automation fascinated her. However, as she has progressed through her major, she's become obsessed with smaller, more powerful hydraulics such as la. In addition to robotics, she loves linguistics. One of her hobbies since coming to the States has been collecting accents. In her spare time, she practices not only removing any trace of her native inflection, but also quickly switching between multiple different regional accents. She feels her personal best is the Southern Belle. Now, we've got a picture and evidence. We will look at that. But Min Lang is interesting. Alright, let's have a look at the photo. Here. So it's a reference to... I'm assuming there's probably an American equivalent as well. In the UK, it's a show called Robot Wars. It was popular in the 90s. And I think it had a bit of a revival more recently, but I didn't really watch that. But it looks very much like the sort of robots you'd get fighting in that. That's kind of cool. Lucy Lang, aka Min Lang, with Talon-Claw, the robot she worked with at uni. So we'll take her picture. Now, the fact that we're getting details about Min as opposed to Mark, makes me think we're actually looking for Min. It just seems like we're getting so much more information about her, plus a photo. Now, I'm not going to know if this is correct until I've also worked on this stuff. I guess I'll leave that in place. Now, I can't think why else I would get a photo of her. That's all I can think. Just, you know, intuiting that it's Min and not Mark that we're looking for. Have a quick look at what it did say about the kids again, though. Was it this one? When we had Mark, we never even considered him. Meanwhile, oh! Our niece. Oh god, this is complicated with the IVF. So I get it now. So yeah, so the sister and her husband didn't. The idea was that they the IVF would help them get a baby, but maybe they never. Maybe they had their own kid and never adopted Min, which would make so Jinyu would have been her actual mum. God, it's complicated, but I'm guessing that's it. That there was no because she did the IVF and all. There was no suggestion that the child had been born out of wedlock, so maybe there was no need to let her sister adopt. I don't know. There's probably stuff I haven't found that really explains that link, but I'm just going to kind of go on the assumption that this is correct now. Until told otherwise. But that seems to be right now, I would say. So now we come up here to Susan, and the main place I can think about starting here is in the personnel files. So assuming that this Susan is the same as this lady, and I believe she is, this lady I originally had here because she was around the time that Clark's son, Chris, was 5, which I think I'm putting at around 1980, 79, 80, that kind of time. She was there. So although she was, let's say, the final affair, we're speculating, she was within the company for longer. So I'm going to look at the company records, and if we go, well, we'll work through them in order. This first one is 75. So possibly a little earlier. We're looking out for Susan's. Okay, this is when Guy was starting. Nothing there. This is more the period that we think she may have joined the company, and it does have the intuition on, which is promising. Christine Garland, Beatrice Watts, Corinne Schwartz, Lisa Lewis, Valerie Ewing. Ooh. Special Services Interpreter, Susan Ford. Now, this is interesting because we know that Susie would travel around the world with Guy on his many, many business trips, and this suggests that's why that was the case. She was an interpreter, and her name is Susan Ford. This category only existed for a year, so she may crop up later in another role, which we'll keep an eye out for, but it's enough to suggest that this is Susan Ford. What else have we got? So the other thing to look out for, I think, is... I'm going to keep looking through the expenses and just see if anything jumps out apart from like the parties and the trips and the flavour developments. Nothing there. There's 3 on here, so that's promising. So Susan Ford has been moved to office staff, which suggests that maybe her latter role was secretary, but I guess, again, we'll go to the later entry and just see if that changed later on. Just checking for other Susans. Susan no longer works as an interpreter. So we've got the parties. This is interesting, though. I had noticed this before, but it hasn't really been mentioned anywhere, this Grandorf Dove donation. Is that relating to a hotel, maybe a charity event of some kind? I'm not sure, but it's a lot of money. So that could be worth looking into, but for now, let's just look at the last entry. This was when Guy died. So she left in 82 as he died. So, you know, there's that. And they didn't have any permanent secretaries after that, probably because the role was so poisoned after Guy's reign. Cancelled loads of stuff. New Year's Ball. Roottree clothing reimbursement to cut. They gave him $1 million. Okay, interesting. But probably not relevant. Okay, well, Susan Ford crops up a lot. I think it's reasonable to assume this is the right Susan. Now, I believe her most recent role then was probably secretary, if she was part of their office staff. Now, obviously, we've got to get a spouse who she would have split up with, and their 2 children. So let's look up this Grandorf Dove. What is this? A school for the deaf. Okay. It's located about an hour from where the Roottrees offices used to be in Butler County, but it serves much of that part of Pennsylvania. So I'm going to copy this because we'll probably look it up in the local news as well. According to the website, it was formerly named blah 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 because Grandorf was the last name of the founder and Dove is the Danish word for deaf. Okay. The founder had issues with government translators, leading to an odd transcription issue. So what year was this donation? This was 81, so this is probably when she was actually having the affair with Guy, if it hadn't started earlier, which it might have done. In 1990, it was renamed to better represent the school's purpose and to correct embarrassing lack of effort and awareness demonstrated by government officials in those early days. Yeah, okay. The staff is listed. You scan through all the biographies and find that the principal, Miss Ford, here we go. Is fluent in 5 languages, so an interpreter. She has been working at the school for over 15 years. Is this current day? Yeah, so as she left the company, she went to work here. But they did a big donation to it prior to her joining. She's been Miss Ford's bio also mentions she's not deaf herself, but rather learned sign language to communicate with the deaf. It mentions that she was responsible for securing funding for the Hudson Wing. Well, there you go. Okay, so let's look this up then in the periodicals. See what they say about them locally. Seems like an endless list of snow cancellations, la la la, nothing relevant. Amongst the avalanche of useless information, you almost miraculously discover one useful article. Grandorf Dove was at the centre of a crime article from 1982. So this is the year after the donation was made and the year that Susan Ford left Roottree. It seems that someone defaced the school and vehicles outside of the brand new Hudson wing of the school. There were multiple broken windows, and one of the teachers' cars was painted with profanity and accusations of infidelity. A few weeks later, a follow-up article provides more details. There was one arrest, Thomas Hughes, who was coincidentally a former student at the school. Apparently the destruction came weeks after he married the school's newest teacher, Mrs. Hughes. So this is the same year that Susan left Roottree and presumably joined the school. So I think this is Susan Ford, and I think this is her husband. She was not a teacher when he went. He graduated a few years earlier. According to the reporter's investigation into the police reports, trials, and restraining orders, Mr. Hughes was convinced that he was not the father of Mrs. Hughes's current pregnancy. He's released on bail, and the school has agreed not to press criminal charges after an agreement was made to pay for the damages and for the couple to begin divorce proceedings. We know they split up. It seems Thomas Hughes, Mrs. Hughes, and the Hudson Wing have avoided further appearances in the Butler County Times. Okay, well, I think given that information, this is reasonable to think this is Thomas Hughes. We're getting there. 2 more. So current pregnancy. They split because of this. I mean, one of these is going to be Guy's child. I'm not sure which one it would be. Well, probably it wouldn't be the second one. Well, no, I don't know. Not sure. Right, let's look up. Let's spider search Thomas Hughes. We could look him up here, I suppose. Same thing. What about the Hudson Wing? Was an expansion to the Grandorf Dove built in 82. Separate, much smaller building, half a block from the main campus, and operates as a smaller independent school that offers free ASL courses for the family members, friends, and caretakers of deaf children. Oh, yeah, this was the donation then. According to the history site, they got the name after the president of Roottree generously donated $250,000 towards the construction of the building. There's also a very vague history section that you can somewhat fill in with details from the other information you've seen about the school. It mentions that the donation came at the insistence of an employee of Roottree at the time. Probably Susan. It mentions that she learned ASL from the main school before the Hudson Wing existed, to surprise her future husband who was deaf, Thomas. After realising how useful a service like this could be to non-deaf people that wished to better serve those with hearing issues, she convinced Roottrees management to invest in the school. The Hudson Wing opened and she became the first teacher at the new campus. At first it only operated on weekends, but has added afternoon classes on some weekdays. So why don't we also look in the periodicals for this? I'm not really sure any of these is going to really lead to anything. So, what if we look for Susan Hughes? I'll do it in the main spider search as well, obviously. Really? Okay, so what have we got, and what have we ended up with here then? Still nothing really to do with the children. Oh, okay, we've got pictures now. Has made a few odd appearances here and there since 1990. It's not too many that you can't look at all of them, and so after scrolling through a few pages, you manage to find something incredibly useful in an article that isn't even focused on the school itself. Local students provide key evidence in scientific study. The article from March of this year mentions that the Ford sisters, who attend public school in Butler County, are one of only a handful of identical twins. Okay, well that explains why there's 2 children in that thing, who suffer from 2 different genetic issues. One of them has asthma and the other one has a deadly allergy to peanuts. Their mother, a Miss Susie Ford, who was principal at the nearby School for the Deaf, was originally contacted by researchers looking to identify if there were any sets of twins where one was born deaf and the other was not. While she didn't have any twins attending her school, she asked if her daughters, Melissa and Heather, could be useful, and it turns out they were. She says they couldn't be more different. My youngest, we all call her that even though it's about 15 minutes, is shy, but essentially hasn't stopped running from the moment she learned to scamper. Asthma has kept her sister off the soccer field, but she's the definition of extrovert, and is even performing in a local production of Is There Life After High School later this year. Might be worth looking that up. There's an article includes a picture of the girls. So we've got 2. We don't know which one's the eldest, but we know that the youngest probably looks quite sporty. So let's have a quick look at that. That might... it's a musical, quite obscure, smaller theatre troops. Yeah, okay, so that's we should look at this in the Butler County periodical then. Fair point. Fair point. The cast list mentions some names, including a Heather Ford. So Heather is the eldest, who's the extrovert actor, Heather Ford. Okay, so we have Heather. Ford, and was it Melissa? I might need to check that. Yeah, Melissa, I think, wasn't it? Melissa Ford. Occupation-wise, I guess I might have to go and check that again, but let's just have a quick look at this. Here we go. I've got an asthma and peanut allergy, so she's got an EpiPen. So the asthma one is the actor, right? And she's extrovert. You know, she's wearing a bright top, so that makes sense. Yeah, EpiPen, there we go. Cool, alright. So the elder has the asthma, and the younger has peanut allergy, and she's the sporty one. Yeah, okay. Let me go back to the entry, because was there... Did it say what they're... No. Did it say what they did for a living? Who attend public school. From 19... Okay, so this is a current article. So they're both students attending public school. Does that mean... Okay, again, from a UK perspective, not sure how the grade system entirely works in America, but does that mean they're up to high school or college? I'm going to go with high school, but it might be college. How are we looking? Assuming that the rest are right, that might be wrong. So what about changing that to college? Go back. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is wrong. Is interpreter... Oh, no, because... Oh, she's a head teacher now, isn't she? That's her most recent job. Okay. Principal. She's a school principal. Oh. Okay. Pretty sure that's going to be principal. I'll just check that again. Who's principal? Oops. Pressed the wrong button. Alright, okay, so if we... Pretty sure that was her maiden name. I haven't seen anything to suggest it wasn't. These are Ford's sisters, unless they were born under Hughes. So let's try that. I'll put them back as high schoolers. How are we doing? Okay. Okay, well let's recheck this. I'm sure on this. She could be like an engineer or something? A mechanic? Engineer's not here. Yeah, let's have a look at Min Lang again. She must be at university, because that's the robotics club of the university. There's nothing else like graduate or anything like that. So was Min Lang her birth name then? I think so. I'm going to go with I'm fairly sure on those. I wonder if... So it mentioned there was a divorce. I wonder if there's anything else on that. I'm just going to assume that it's some... I haven't landed on the right combination of things yet. So I can't remember what I've searched for. I'm going to go back to my initial search for Ford. Ah! Obviously I hadn't done that combination of things. There we go. So that... Okay, there is still 32. We know there's that top secret envelope. But it looks like we've locked in the whole tree now. As well as Thomas Hughes. Got some photos.
Hi again. I know you probably thought you were done, but it turns out what you're doing here might have some pretty major repercussions on the family tree.
Again. Also, there's something really strange happening. I can't explain it.
Neither of us can.
I'd call it a simple misunderstanding, but it's digging at the pit of my stomach. I just have a feeling. Clark?
Last week, let's just say being the president, sometimes people bring me things.
Just skip to the important part.
Right. One of our janitors brought me some hair she'd found in Ruby Spratt's trash. It was Bonnie Hudson's. Bonnie is Guy's sister. She'd sent us her hair to test potential Roottrees, since her DNA is closest to Guy's. But Ruby threw it out, and I wasn't sure why she would have done that. Especially right before we began testing the tree you provided. When I asked, she told me she thought the samples needed to be fresh every time they did a test.
It seems really odd. Ruby was the one who convinced us to do DNA testing in the first place. She seemed so knowledgeable. I don't like it. You've done more of a deep dive on these people than anybody else has. Clark will keep a closer eye on the DNA tests from now on. You have an eye for anomalies. We need you to find the smoking guns.
If there's anyone you're 100% positive can't be a Roottree,
or any you've got definitive evidence are Roottrees, then we might be able to catch Ruby in a lie.
Okay. So what's this? After putting together the tree of potential new Roottree, Clark and Sam appeared at your door together. According to Clark, Ruby Spratt, the company's lawyer, was caught throwing away DNA samples from Bonnie Hudson. These were intended to be used to test new potential Roottree. Something doesn't sit right with Sam, and the two of them asked for your help. They're hoping that with your evidence and understanding of the family tree, you could verify which people in the dotted boxes are almost certainly legitimate Roottrees, very unlikely to be legitimate, and which of them are too ambiguous to make a decision one way or another. Sorry, my phone went. I can't remember if I finished reading that bit, but additionally, with the suspicion on Ruby Spratt, it's possible that some of her behaviours in the past have also been cast into doubt. A new section of the tree has been added for you to fill in. Okay, so I just... when my phone call went, I did check the time of the video. So we're at about 3/4 of an hour, and I think this is going to take quite a bit of time to do. I'm not even sure where to start with this stuff, if I'm honest. Like, definitively say... I mean, I would say there's question marks over literally everyone, but yeah, I don't know. I think Ruby Spratt is in this tree. I said that quite a while ago, that I'm pretty sure she is, and she seems to come from Guy. So that's probably why she was throwing away the DNA sample. So does she want to be proven a Roottree or not? How about she... okay, so Ruby is the one who's kind of working towards altering the Clanset Trust, and I'll go back and look at exactly what that says, I think probably at this point in the next episode. But what if she isn't a Roottree? What if she just wants... What if she's trying to make it seem that she is a Roottree? So she suggested the DNA stuff. What if she is purposefully mucking up her sample to make it appear that she is a Roottree, so that she gets the inheritance? That's what I'm thinking at this point. Now, I know I have all the periodicals, which is good, so I don't have to wonder about, you know, finding others of those from somewhere. Yeah, this is interesting. I wasn't expecting this, I'll be honest. Like I said, I mean, I just don't. I know that some of these, like Mary Beth Quaker was really into foster care. So it's entirely possible that one or more of her children was actually adopted. Again, we'll have to dig deeper into this stuff, and I'm not exactly sure how to go about it, so I'll have a little think. But this is what I'm postulating, that Ruby is not a Roottree, but she's altering the Clanset Trust so that I'm assuming she's altering it in her favour somehow, so that she can get on the list of inheritors. Yeah, that's my working theory. But yeah, we'll come back to this next time then. There's a lot to get into here, I suspect, so I don't even know if we'll be finished in the next episode. Was there something else up here now? Oh no, that's different. What I will do is I'll just give Susan her alternate photo there. Cool. Well, I mean, I can't say that I haven't made progress. I think hopefully everyone watching will agree that I think I did okay getting to this point. I mean, I found this one more complicated than I think the previous one. Although there were a lot of points in the previous one where I was just, what on earth do I do? So I wouldn't say the previous one was easy either. But I suspect this next step is going to be the most complicated. So join me for that. If you've enjoyed this episode, if you could hit that like button, that'd be fantastic. Do leave a comment as well. Let me know your thoughts on our progress so far, and any thoughts on the final denouement. Do you agree with my theory about Ruby Sprat? Anyway, yeah, look forward to those. And if you're watching this and not yet subscribed to the channel, if you could do that as well, that'd be fantastic. So thanks very much, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.